All right, Fatemeh, the floor is all yours. Let's start.
Perfect. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Happy to have you here and happy to be here with all of you. And I'm going to talk a little bit about architecture in the metaverse today. And I'm not sure how any of you, like how familiar you are with architects in the metaverse and the field. I mean, it is a very new field and we love exploring it. I'm part of Spaces. I'm the founder of Spaces. I was hoping to see some of our team as well here. I think they're going to connect soon. If you are around, you can wave or say something. And then yeah,
Should
maybe we can just go to the next slide and I can start jumping into it. Awesome, thank you for that. So what does it mean to be a metaverse architect? Basically, a lot of people ask me, is it very much different from being an architect in the real world? What are the different skills you're required to have as an architect in the metaverse? And what is different about it, right? And I guess the difference, there is not that much difference. I think that, I find it so important for architects to be involved in this space because we have all these platforms that were built platform. I call them platforms because they actually are somehow platforms, right? Where you can acquire lands or assets and you can put them to use. But what happens is that all of these lands are empty, and right now, well, for a long time, we're going to need a lot of designers to come into the space and to build on those lands and on those virtual spaces and platforms that are being created. Like, for example, this one here, I'm sure there's a very talented designer behind this space created here for us in Spatial to meet today. And I guess, in terms of what skills are required, depending on the platform, there are different ways to transfer your skills for the metaverse. But it's not really that hard of a process to acquire those skills. Mainly, you use normal skills like that you would with 3D modeling in the real world, and you just have to learn how to adjust and work with the different platforms that we have. All good? Oh, perfect. And
next slide. Oh,
yeah. So yeah, it's not really that hard to learn the skills, but I guess the more important thing about more than just the skills would be exploring these spaces, right? Because the needs that your avatar has are so different than the needs that you would have as a human being in the real world, right? And architects were trained to design for humans, and I guess looking into how we can design for these avatars specifically for their needs and what spaces they would like to experience. Like one of the things for me, for example, that's bit more personal is when I go to a metaverse space and it's totally closed and I'm in there with my avatar, whether it's with the VR or it's just through a web experience, I do get a bit claustrophobic when I'm in a very, very closed space. So that's one of the things I've learned from my experience of just going through different spaces on different platforms, metaverse platforms. And I think those are the learnings that we need to bring into the design and how we think and conceive spaces and experiences in the metaverse. We can go next. Thank you. And so here are a few of those platforms that I was talking about that we could design on, for example, Somnium, Sandbox, and Decentraland. And I have this categorization that I've done based on graphics. So Sandbox and crypto voxels as well, they go for a very voxelized graphic style. And then Somnium and Decentraland are a bit more realistic, but it's not hyper realistic. And then we have these super cool metaverse platforms that are coming up more and more every day, and they're based on Unreal Engine and Unity, and you would have the hyper realistic graphic styles over there, which are also really amazing and awesome to experience. We can go next if you want. Thank you. And so you might ask, okay, well, what are the type of projects that you're designing in the metaverse, and what are the different spaces that you're creating in those in these metaverse platforms? And it can really range from anything. We've worked on festival and concert spaces, NFT galleries, offices, headquarters of different companies, and also virtual homes. But really, the possibilities are limitless. We can do whatever we want in the metaverse, and we can create anything. So like, I mean, that's one of the things I love seeing and experimenting as well as we go along, right? It's so beautiful to see how every traditional industry is making that shift to the Web3 and to the metaverse space, and to see how that's shaping up for each of them. There's one project that I'm looking at right now where they have a cookie brand and they want to bring it to the metaverse, and I think that's really cool as well. I mean, like, so every industry is trying to find their space in the metaverse, and there is no like, oh well, you guys don't really fit into the metaverse. I mean, everyone has their space, and we're just trying to like figure out how that most perfectly fits into it. Should we go next, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. So I put together a bunch of images of like different designs that we've done just to give you an idea. We are very much for experimenting what are the possibilities in the metaverse, and trying to push the boundaries as well with design. We like to experiment. We like to try to think outside of the box, because now the rules have changed. Gravity doesn't apply, but that's not just the only thing. As I said, our avatars don't have the same needs as the real, as the physical humans that we are have. So how can spaces change and adapt and host our avatars? That's something that we have at the core of our design philosophy. So maybe if you could just go through these images really quickly. We don't need to stay on one slide, please. Thank you.
Wow. Awesome.
Feel free to jump in with questions, guys. I'm so happy. Like, I want this to be as interactive as possible, and I had short notice to prepare for this, so I don't have like presentation per se, but I just really wanted to like hear your concerns and your questions and make it very interactive. So if you have any questions, feel free to go for it.
It's amazing. How long did you take to do it?
I don't know. I think like the design process of each project takes roughly about a month, depending on the scale, obviously. So that's just a rough, yeah.
What are your main considerations when designing a space? You said like virtual is different from the real physical world. So what kind of challenges do you bump into?
That's a very good question. So depending on on what we have as like the goal of the space that we're designing, we take that into account. For example, the festival space that we were designing and the concert spaces. I was thinking about it, right? When you go to a festival in the real world, you have this like main stage at the end, and everyone's just standing and like watching it. And I was just thinking, well, this needs to be a bit more interactive. It needs to engage the artist a little bit more, and it needs to engage the viewers a little bit more. This actually image, the one with the pool right now, that one, yeah, perfect. That's actually from the stage for the artist. So we created these like floating platforms that you can have different viewpoints on the singer as well, and we designed this like like leveling up of different platforms as well on the floor with this water element as well, to kind of make it more of an engaging space, let's say. So you're not just like standing with one stage in front of you, but you have these like different ways to connect with the singer, and that was one thing that we tackled. Do you have any more questions? This was this is the entrance to like an NFT gallery that we did, and then the image above it is from the inside as well.
And what kind of tools do you use to create all these spaces?
We use like typical 3D modeling programs, as you would, for example, like Blender, Cinema 4D, 3ds Max, and then we adapt those models into each metaverse platform. So for example, let's say Spatial, right? If you want to bring it here, you just like export your file in like a universal format and just drag it into the space. But then some platforms are a bit more complicated. So for example, talking about the Sandbox has their own box editor and the game builder. So what the process there is, basically you would take your models and divide them up into tiny bits that you bring into the box editor, and then from the box editor you would bring it into the game builder, mount it all together, and create the experience inside the game builder.
Yeah, so sometimes you're limited by the space you're working for, that you have to do it in their proprietary tool.
Exactly, and like for example, Decentraland limits you in terms of triangles that polygons that you can have, and also in terms of height that you can build depending on the dimension of the plot you're working on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, we do most of our work in the Sandbox actually, and I was also interested because Petek was about to talk about the Sandbox here today, so I thought I'm going to put a slide about the Sandbox here, and if you guys had any questions about the Sandbox and building in the Sandbox, or you wanted to like go over some concerns about that, or I'm happy to share what I know about it too.
Yeah, I'm thinking about starting that when I can find some time to actually dive in and learn voxel editing. It looks interesting as a platform for what it intends to do.
100%. That is definitely like I would really recommend that. And honestly, like we are thinking about that as well because right now we find the program a little bit more limiting in terms of like design creativity. So we do the designs in like typical 3D modeling programs and then bring it into the Vox editor to get it Sandbox ready. But I think that's not going to be sustainable in the long run, and we would need to directly design in the Vox edit and just and hopefully the program is this is just the beta version of it right now. So I'm 100% sure they're going to develop a very advanced program to create and design whatever you can imagine. So looking forward to that.
So when you transfer this from another program to Sandbox, do you like reduce polygons or convert it some way to make it into cubes?
Yeah, there is a program called Magical Voxel where you bring in your 3D models and then it just voxelizes it for you. So you have like normal meshes and then it voxelizes it for you.
Okay, it does need a lot of cleanup because I can imagine that the resolution is so much lower that things get misplaced, just like when you crop down or compress a 2D image, like in Photoshop. If you make something high res into like pixel art, then usually you have a lot less colors and things might become blobby or not really representing the object that you actually wanted to have.
Well, the texturing, we do it afterwards in Vox Edit, so we don't really try to bring in the textures once we're exporting. And that helps. And like aside from the texturing, it is a very smooth process from our experience so far. So turning the files into voxels has been like, I was also worried about that. I was like, oh man, the quality is going to go down. I mean, these are like two examples of our work that you can see in voxel, and it doesn't turn out to be very blobby, and it is quite controlled. So I'm happy about that.
Yes, nice. Yeah, thanks.
No
to give it a try.
And then lastly, I wanted to talk about design ethics in the metaverse. This is a topic that has been really interesting to me, and I was just thinking about, do we actually need design ethics in the metaverse? And if we do, what would those design ethics be? Like, for example, I had a very interesting conversation because since the very beginning, I've been against replicating real world builds into the metaverse, which is something that does happen quite often, right? A lot of different interests will have like, you have a beautiful house and you want to turn it into the metaverse, or you have a beautiful building in the real world and you want to bring it into the metaverse, and you just replicate the exact same thing. And in terms of like design, for me, that was kind of a bit unacceptable because I thought, well, you have a new platform where all the rules are changed, so why keep the same architecture, right? Or the same design? And then I had a very interesting conversation with a friend of mine who works in the security field, and she said, well, not only that, but it is a security breach if you have your real world building in the metaverse. And I thought, well, I had never come up to my mind. Like I never really considered it, and that was just so fascinating. I was like, you're so right. It is crazy. Like it is such a security breach, and it is something that like I know that things are moving super fast in this space, and the Web3 space is just like the pace is really hard to keep with. But I guess we still have to take that time to think about what the things that we're doing and the things that we're designing, and what are the logics behind it, what are the new rules that we're creating, so what are the ethics behind the work as well. So not just like quick designs, just delivering in a really fast way, but also taking that time needed to reflect on what we're creating in this space, because we have this new fresh palette and we don't want to approach it in a very irresponsible way. I would love to be a responsible designer in the metaverse and to approach it in the most responsible way that I can. And I'd love to hear you guys' thought about that.
So Fatemeh, I'm just curious, like, what kind of clients do you work, or what kind of customers do you have? Can you tell a little bit more about that?
Yes, definitely. I actually wanted to give a shout out to a few of our clients. I hope you're in this scene. We've worked with an NFT gallery that we love doing that as well, because this NFT gallery, that, like it means that you're creative people, right? And we love working with creative people that allow you to go as creative as you can possibly be. And Bluebird NFT Gallery, are you here? I hope you are. And we loved working with them. We've also worked with Play, which is a gaming guild. We designed their headquarters in Decentraland. That was also amazing to work with. Hi, Play. Nice to have you here. And also we've worked with a fund, investment fund that works with different clients. So we do a lot of projects with them in terms of like delivering projects to different clients that they have. And we also work with a lot of games, because an NFT projects in general, because you have NFT projects that you see a lot of NFT projects in their roadmap. Hey, we're going to be in the metaverse soon, and that's when they're going to need someone to design that metaverse space for them.
Cool. So you
Hey,
talked
Fatemeh.
about. Oh, someone has a question.
Yeah, continue. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I will ask after. Thank you. Keep going. Sorry
Oh,
for
no problem.
interrupting.
Sure. No. So you, Fatemeh, you talked about design ethics. So can you give like a concrete example of this? Like, has that to do with inclusion, or like, I don't know, cultural, or yeah? Can you give a little bit more of an example of this? Like, how do you practice like design ethics?
Yeah, I think it's not that like we are practicing design ethics. We're just trying to have that in mind to be able to design in an ethical way. Also because at the end of the day, the platforms are the ones that are in charge of most of these things. What we're in charge of is only the design we bring on a specific land. But yes, I think like personally, I do talk a lot about this, about inclusion and diversity in the metaverse, and how if we're going to have these avatars as our new identities in the metaverse, how can we have it be most inclusive, and how can every member of our society, being as diverse as it is, connect to their virtual identity and their virtual avatars? How can we innovate in a way that every person can have an avatar that they can relate to, and we can have cultural diversity through that within every space. And it is true that a lot of the platforms are still very limited in what options you have as to how you customize your avatar, not in your variables, but in how you customize your avatar in terms of like um, ethnicity, for example, is one of them. Something happened. Well, Yeah, so we do think about that, but in terms of like how we design our spaces to be more inclusive, that's definitely another topic. And we're like, it's really hard to define, but it is something we're looking at.
Cool. Yeah, I understand.
Awesome. I think
Yeah, I
someone
have
else
a
had a
question.
question. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah. So can you guide me how, as an architect, I can start my journey in a metaverse?
That's pretty cool. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it is pretty easy and accessible, most of these platforms now. I guess the one that would be most like being here already, that is you starting your journey in the metaverse, I believe. So you have started your journey in the metaverse, and exploring the different platforms, for example, even Decentraland. You don't even need to have a wallet anymore to connect to it or go inside the world. You can just directly go in as a guest and experience that metaverse platform. And I think the most important thing is to read and to listen and to I guess to do a lot of research about it. It's not a one-day journey. It is a journey that takes long, but it is a beautiful one, and it is a new field, and I loved exploring it myself. And I think you need to like really take your time and educate yourself on the different aspects, because architecture and metaverse doesn't just end there. You need to know about decentralization, the blockchain, the Web3, NFTs, everything that is happening in the space is very intertwined. And educating yourself on all the different aspects and how they connect and help you shape yourself in the space is very important.
Thank you. And I have one more question follow up on that. Can I connect with you, or I can help you in a project, or get to know about your project more in a way?
Definitely, definitely. I think I put some contacts down here at the end of the slides. Make sure to get in touch, and I'll be happy to guide you whatever way I can.
Oh. Are there any more questions from the audience?
Yes. Can I ask a question, please?
Something is wrong with your mic. The one that
I don't think it's my mic.
someone else, right? So,
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's someone who wants to ask a question, but it's not coming through.
that sucks.
Well, yeah.
Well, I have a question. You were
Go for
talking
it.
about design principles, right? So I was actually asked, why do we have meetings in a meeting room? Why can't we have meetings on the dragon?
On the what?
On a dragon. I mean, like, why do we have to stick with
Like,
what
yeah,
we're
be
familiar
creative.
with?
And Daniel, you got a challenge.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that is super creative, honestly. Like, I mean,
The
we can
principle of the
we
question
can have
is that,
meetings on the
so
dragon.
why
I'm
do
happy to join.
I mean, the
Sorry.
idea is that why do we have to replicate what we are familiar with in the real world? Following up what you mentioned just now about buildings.
100%. I do agree with you on that, and I don't think we need to replicate. But one of the comments that I heard that it really helped me understand why some people choose to replicate or choose to stay closer to what we're familiar with is that this space is already a huge change for people to get used to, and we are still onboarding a lot of new incomers to the space. So yeah. So I think that was the reason. Like keeping it familiar allows for more people to get into the space, and allows for more onboarding into the space. And I guess that makes sense in a way as well. Like we don't want people to be afraid right away, right? We can take that step by step into exploring the possibilities. Like I hope in a few months' time we're gonna have a call on a dragon. I would love that.
Yeah, me too. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Let's start a guild, the Dragon Guild.
The Dragon Guild, I'm all
I
in.
love it. I'm all into.
Nice.
From my experience, that starts working when you go into special events, that you get more like gamified experience, that people are expecting weird things to happen. They can get them on dragons or another kind of strange situations.
Yeah.
I guess you have to get the children, the child inside out. But be excited about being there.
You know how those tech companies at one point start building slides and stuff, ballparks and things in the offices. I think you apply that principle to what you could do in a metaverse office, then you can actually really let it fly, right? Because the idea is to let people be creative, let them get some off time in between different phases, So yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. Initially I remember, I don't know if this is just me remembering this. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure there are a lot more people that were earlier adopters of the space here. But in Decentraland, initially, I remember you could just walk around. You couldn't really fly or do anything. And then now you can fly. So I guess that's just there, right? It takes time for each of these, like, not only technologically, because but also in terms of like adoption and how people would I mean, if you give them everything at the very beginning, it's going to be way too overwhelming, and everyone's just going to be like, well, this is too much and I don't want it. And it can even be dystopic at a certain point, right? We don't want to create that dystopian atmosphere. So I guess that's why we're going in a more smooth transition to create something that is more acceptable by the general public, I guess.
If I can just share with you, I've taken a book and converted the book into a gallery. Instead of like slides or pictures coming one after another in one place, imagine if each of the slides is at a different place and you can walk from one to another. Because then you don't have to take them through the journey like a PowerPoint. You take them on a journey as they would in a book. That you read it through or that you go through it. So it becomes a visual story. I think that's the change we can look at when we are freed from gravity, as you said so.
I love hearing those ideas.
So that's for Daniel.
That is fantastic. You see, this is
for Daniel to do in the next meeting,
Sorry?
right? I think that's for Daniel to do in the next meeting, right? So instead of having the slides, put each slide in each frame. And then we have to go around.
Continue. Sorry.
I think, that's what I love about this space. No, I'm sorry. That's what I love about this space. It gives you the possibility to be as creative as you want. Talking about having meetings on the back of a dragon or an art gallery in a book form. This is everything that is so beautiful about it to me. Like taking creativity to the next level and just opening your mind to the possibilities and imagining your wildest dreams and then actually having them come true. It's so cool.
I have a question for
May
you.
I have a question?
Oh, sure. Go on.
Oh, okay. So, are you operating this as a DAO? Because in your website you name it a DAO. So is this really a DAO, or how does it work?
That's a great question. And one of the things I can say is, to be very, very honest with you, it is not working as a DAO as of right now. It is there because it is definitely something we want to achieve, and it is something that we want to get to. We want to be a community-led project and to fully embrace the Web3 space. But as you might know, DAOs right now, most of them are not fully working in the way that it is because the world is not there with us right yet, right? In terms of like legal, in terms of so many things, we are not really there in terms of like having a fully decentralized organization. So we still need to live in a very centralized world. And having to live in a very centralized world and having a decentralized organization and where the two of them meet, I think there's a lot of innovation that needs to be done for DAOs to really function as a DAO. And that's where we are right now. We have it as an aim that we'd love to get to, but we don't want to also not be true to what we really have, which is not a fully decentralized organization as of right now.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
I had one remark and one question also. One remark: I heard someone like I heard children in the background. So you know, just and it was also with earlier meetings. So just check, like, mute yourself if you think you will be causing noise. That's just for the audience members. Fatemeh, yeah, I was curious, like, what is your experience with Unreal Engine? Because at YOM, you know, we're creating an Unreal Engine toolkit, and I was just curious if, you know, if you're also creating cool spaces in Unreal.
100%. 100%. Juan is right here, and Juan is actually our creative director. Maybe Juan, you want to just say hi quickly, and also leading our Unreal Engine team.
Hello, nice to meet you all. Yeah, sorry because I'm in a co-working office and there is like people around me. But yes, we do use Unreal Engine a lot, and we really like to this software, and we think like the metaverse is going to be more and more used for everything. Actually, for the videos that you see on those spaces, and they are done, most of them, well, all of them, in Unreal. The modeling and creating is in 3ds Max and Blender, and then we do the post-production in Unreal. And yeah, we think it's a really powerful software, and we actually keep learning it. It's amazing.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you for that, Juan. I'd love to learn more about what you're doing as well with Unreal Engine, because we are really stoked about the future possibilities of it. One of the metaverse platforms that we are really happy to explore as well is called Leap-In. I'm not sure if anyone here is familiar with Leap-In. They work mainly with Unreal and Unity, and it's just really beautiful to have right? Yeah, cool. Well, I guess it's a mix of 1-to-1.
What? How is it called? The website or the company?
It's a metaverse platform. It's called Leap, as in like taking a leap, and then N, Leap-In.
Leap-In. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I guess it's like Leap-In, but without the I of Leap-In.
Cool. I'm gonna check it out.
Check it out. It's really, really cool. We are huge fans of Leap-In as well. And I think, love to explore more metaverse platforms coming up that are working with these kind of graphics. I think that's really the future of the space.
Yeah, so yeah, we definitely can talk, Fatima, because yeah, we're working on the like an Unreal Engine toolkit. So basically, then you can have one of these worlds that you're building and host it on our server, and then people can access it via the browser. So yeah, but we're still in development.
That is so cool. Awesome. Yeah, I would love to have some of our worlds up there, right? So cool.
Yeah, nice. Awesome. So how do you see the future?
Curiosity.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So how do you see the future of the metaverse? Like, how do you see this, like, in 5 or 10 years?
That's a great question. I see, like, this huge interoperable metaverse platform. Well, not a platform anymore. I guess it's, talking about Metamundo and their interoperability portal. Yeah, I guess that really is the future, right? So right now we have different metaverse platforms, and each are doing their own thing. They have their own lands, they have their own assets, and nothing is really connected. I guess the future of the metaverse is what I see it be is an intertwined network of all these different platforms and interoperability between each of them. Not only just you and your avatar, but also your assets moving with you from one to the other, and this huge network of platforms that you can go through and experience and explore. And that really is, I think, the future of what we're doing here.
Cool.
I guess you do too, right? That's why
Yeah.
you've got your Meta portal.
Exactly. I'm all
Right.
about interoperability, and making bridging the gaps between all these virtual worlds. So yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I think that that is the biggest task we're gonna have to achieve, and I can't wait for it to be happening already. I was curious as to like how many people here today are actually architects or from a design background. Are there any like designers or architects here?
I'm
I
a
wouldn't
game
say
designer.
architect, but I'm a terraformer. Yeah.
Who was the game designers as well here, right? Hi, awesome. Nice to meet you.
Sergio, here. Hi. So educated game designer, and from there, like spreading out to different kind of digital media things, just based on the need.
Awesome. Have you explored designing games in the Sandbox, for example?
No, not yet. That's why I'm interested in doing that. My previous experience was in the last Metaverse hype during the Second Life hype. It's when I graduated and did a study on Second Life just when it was gaining traction on business. And after that, I went experimenting for business with like events and spaces and all that stuff. Until, of course, the interest dwindled. So I'm very curious how it works out this time with improved technology and a lot more platforms being developed. So because now there's much more competition. So hopefully also people will like try harder to make it work for certain audiences.
Definitely,
I
I totally agree. And
The adoption of especially the VR headsets, I think that's the game changer. Second Life came in when VR headsets were very expensive. It was prohibitive to own one. I'm from India, and now even here, the cost of the VR, AR headsets, it's still steep, but the adoption is increasing, and there is always the factor that there is a generation which has grown up comfortable with the idea of Second Life. So that's the generation which is going to drive adoption of the metaverse because it's already here. If you go on Fortnite and play a game with your friends, you're already doing what we are doing. We're talking over here and maybe not, say, firing guns, but that's what Fortnite is. If you don't fire guns, then you just sit around and talk to each other. There is a world to explore and there is interaction to be done. So gaming, I think that's a very valid experience you have because you know how to get the interest of the user going.
Yeah. Gaming is already there. They already know about like online social interaction, how to deal with each other. Sometimes even building like almost businesses or organizations in these gaming worlds, like guilds to work together and collaborate on a grander goal than each individual can achieve.
100%. Collaboration.
If I could give an example of Roblox, it's quite underrated that way in the gaming community. But when it comes to children between, say, 10 to 15, the adoption or familiarity with the platform is awesome. They know how to navigate it, they know how to use it. And within 5 years, this is a generation which is going to be very comfortable with what we discuss today and build in the metaverse. So I think we have to get our audience right. It's not for people who are already 30 or 40. It's for people who are going to be 20 and 30 and 40 in the next decade.
Yeah, they will learn naturally.
I mean, we can't underestimate certain age groups. There are a lot of people that are interested and more than the typical 20, 30-year-old that you would imagine in the space, and they already have their avatars. So, I mean, I wouldn't discriminate, and I wouldn't think that, they can't adopt it or be a part of it just as much as any young person would, You never know what is someone's background or what they're interested in or what is their approach to new technology and flexibility towards that. But I loved what you had to say earlier on about collaboration, about in terms of I think that is so important as well. And one of the things is if you don't have games, if you don't have an interaction inside the experience that you're creating, then it's just a very, very boring experience. And that is something that we really hold closely as well. If you go into any metaverse space, and it's just a building, it's a static building with walls or whatever, even if it's like, a really beautiful building, it is still a building and it's just static, right? And in the metaverse, you don't want just that. You want an experience where you can interact, and you want an experience that gives you something back as well. And I think that this is a great moment for game developers and designers to work closely on building those spaces, and that is what we try to do as well. And not just to provide spaces that are static and you can just walk through it, have minimal interaction, but something that really engages the user with the space.
Yes, we need experienced designers as well, experienced UX designer. So it's kind of a merger between 3D architecture plus interactivity, like what you actually do with the spaces, and that has to be designed as well.
100%. Yeah, that is exactly where I think the beautiful project comes out. Like you have the best of both worlds, and you can give the best experience to the users.
So what are some examples of this? Because of like great experiences in the metaverse. Like I love, for example, the concerts in Fortnite with Travis Scott. I think that's 2 years ago, and more recently Ariana Grande. Like I think these are so they show in such a good way all the potential of all these virtual worlds. Basically, I think. Do you have also examples of experiences that you like?
I can totally agree with you. I think the music industry is definitely paving the path for everyone else. And I think, they've really got it on point in terms of how, they're doing these virtual concerts and how the users are interacting with those spaces. And I think that would even be my answer as well as to like what is the best example or best practice in this field of like bringing interactions into the build. And like, for example, art galleries are a bit harder to achieve that, although I think it's still very, very possible. But when you go through Decentraland, for example, there are some builds that you just like enter and then a message pops up, or you're suddenly in a dark room and then lights are off, and like instead of just like having those walls moving through different spaces and moving through things that are just suddenly happening, that brings or raises some sort of excitement, whether it's very small like the things that I'm explaining, or whether it's like super huge like Travis Scott concert in Fortnite. They're both somehow still thrilling for the user because they're creating that interaction. So for example, for me, one of the craziest ones was, I do not remember where in Decentraland this was, but I was just walking around one day and I saw this building. I thought it was cool. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go inside this building. As soon as I entered, this very, very creepy music turned on and the whole space got dark. And like literally, I actually got the adrenaline. I was like, "Whoa, this is kind of creepy. Like, what am I doing here?" And I was trying really hard to find my way out, and it was kind of a gamified space, and you had to find different clues in order to find your way out of the space. And I thought that was a really cool experience. So it is a very small scale compared to Travis Scott concerts, but it still is an experience that is not just something that you just walk through, but it is creating that interaction with you.
Cool.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, I'm Luca. I'm an architect, and it's a while that I've been reading, studying, watching videos about metaverse, NFT, cryptos, and stuff. And I've been fascinated a lot about all these new possibilities that we have as architects in the metaverse, as like creating freely crazy spaces and stuff. And every time I was reading, watching videos, listening also to podcasts, every time I jump into you, Fatemeh, and so I would have like 1,000 questions for you because I want to do exactly what you are doing as an architect. You know, I want to go full time to create, you know, my career in the metaverse as an architect. So I would love to ask you, you know, where to start. I know that you already said, but which software to use, you know, and overall, if we as architect can do a full-time career in this, and you know, how can we develop our career where we can solve yeah, our products, you know, if you need to have like only private clients, or you can, you know, sell the 3D models also in the marketplaces, or I don't know, in some sites. I don't know, you know, what do you think about, you know, going full time as an architect, full time career in the metaverse? What do you suggest us? It is possible. It is. I will ask you in a rude way, but do you make can you make good money in this? How hard it was to start, you know, with your studio in this career? Thank you.
Thank you, Luca. I'm always very excited to meet enthusiastic architects about the space, and I'm very happy to meet you. If you have like more questions than what I can answer you here, please do contact me and connect with me. I'm happy to answer you, and if there are new positions open at Spaces, I'll definitely have you in consideration for that as well. And
Thanks so
I'm
much.
gonna like
I
answer
already
your
linked
question.
with you on LinkedIn also.
Okay. Awesome. So send me a message on LinkedIn and I'll be in touch.
I would love to do it.
So
And I see you are working in Madrid, right?
yep, we are based in Madrid.
I also know Spanish, so perfect. I will come to look at you.
That's nice.
No, I'm
Although
joking. You
we
can
speak
continue.
fully in English, so
Yeah. I'm joking.
yeah.
You can. Yeah.
Awesome. So I think, I definitely see there's a huge potential for architects to be in this space, and you don't necessarily need to have clients to work for. There are so many platforms that you can upload your work on. For example, Sandbox has their own marketplace where you can design your own assets and upload it there and monetize on those. Decentraland has the same. Metamundo that we were talking about is also a platform to upload your designs as a 3D designer and also an architect, where you can, upload your 3D designs and people would acquire it and then have it deployed on the Metaverse platform. Renovi as well is actually the first Metaverse platform for architects, and right now they're having a competition for architects, and the prizes are amazing. You can even get a land in Decentraland if you win the competition. So that
Yeah, I know. I'm
huge,
working
amazing.
for the competition at this time.
Awesome, that's fantastic. So there are many ways for architects to get started in the space, and a lot more attention is coming to it as well. So definitely a fantastic place to start your career, and I wouldn't be hesitant. I think you can definitely have a full-time career in the metaverse as an architect. Just think about the amount of platforms that have been created, and all of these platforms are still quite vacant in terms of design. Most of them are just empty lands, and these empty lands are not going to stay that way for long. A lot of people are bringing value in what they bring onto their lands, and they need designers to bring that value to their lands. So I encourage as many architects to get into the space. It is definitely an industry with a huge potential, and you can definitely have a full-time job in the metaverse.
Yeah, thanks so much. I think the same, because there are a lot of different words, empty, like you said, and who are going to build this world, but not the architects. So it's like the architect's dream to start working on this, because you don't have any kind of physical limitation. It's just a full creative job. You can create wherever you want. So it's like the dream of an architect. So I'm very excited to start working on it. But between starting and then create a real job, there is this gap, and I want to know more about to try to to climb this gap and became a real architect in space. And I will do what you said. Thank you so much, because it's very inspiring.
I think you're already taking the right steps. You need to give it time. Obviously, nothing is done overnight, and I wouldn't rush it either. So just like take your time. You're already on the right path. Make sure to get in touch, and like applying to these competitions, for example, opportunities like that would really help your career, and also like just getting your designs on different platforms. There are not that many platforms focused on 3D design and architecture. That I know of. There are basically just two that are focused 100% on that, obviously on different platforms. You can upload your 3D models, but they're not 100% focused on it. And Metamundo and Renovi are the two that I know. And I really highly suggest you to try to put up some of your designs. And I guess the best way to go about it is to start doing something once you're already there, and the doors will start to open.
Yeah, thank you. I think the same. And these marketplaces are kind of empty, and so I was, asking myself how it's possible, that they are all empty, and also in the Decentraland, for example, like, the buildings, it's kind of sucks. It's not so high quality design. So I think that for us, there are a lot of possibilities. Go 100% for it. Thank you.
No problem.
Are there any more questions from the audience? I have a little bit of a question. So Fatemeh, you talked like you created like an environment for an NFT gallery, right? Yeah. So I'm just curious, like, this is maybe a bit vague question. I don't know, but of course you have now more and more like 3D NFTs coming. Like it started with 2D collectibles, and like I'm sorry, maybe I'm not so, yeah, I'm just like in my mind, I don't, what's your view on NFTs, like because with like just simple collectibles I don't really get it. I get it more like, basically NFTs for the metaverse. It's much more easy to comprehend to me than just 2D NFTs. I don't know, how do you view that?
I am a NFT believer, so in every sense of the word. And I think collectibles are amazing. I think one-on-one art is amazing because I am an art lover as well. So I embrace NFTs in all its shapes and forms, but I do understand that it might be easier to grasp the idea of an NFT ready for the metaverse in terms of like a 3D NFT because of its utility, right? But I think that, a lot of projects out there that even if the NFT or the artwork in itself is in the form of a 2D artwork, the actual utility behind that and what it brings to you, it's so much more. So I guess that's where I start to believe in those kind of projects. For example, I'm a huge fan of all the female led NFT projects like Boss Beauties, World of Woman NFT, and I think that that's so important because it's not only like they're doing so much in terms of like educating, onboarding, and it is a very male dominated industry, and onboarding more females into the industry. And I read this article the other day about female entrepreneurs and funding for them. So I don't remember the exact percentage. So like I'm not going to give you the exact percentage, but it was just really crazy to see that we're getting so much less investment just because we're women in this space, as entrepreneurs. And that was just really crazy. It really hit me hard, and that's why I'm a believer of these kind of projects, because they also help female entrepreneurs not only help us but also educate as well. So that's really cool. And I guess I do agree with you that 3D NFTs are like easier to grasp as an idea because it has a more direct utility to it.
Yeah, thank you. Nice, really cool to hear all these developments. So that's really yeah. That's the good way forward.
Yeah, definitely. I think so, and then I guess with the one-on-one NFTs, it's just if you appreciate the art or the artist behind it, there's not much more to say about it, right? I mean, it's like any form of art. Art is so subjective that you can't really justify why someone would purchase a piece of art.
Yes, in the Netherlands we say wat de gek ervoor geeft. But yeah, it's just what the crazy
It
like
sounds so
what
cool.
so like what the crazy person is wants to spend on it basically. So just it's really subjective indeed.
Yes, very much, very much.
Cool. All right. Well, if there aren't any more questions, it's 5 o'clock already. So you did really great, Fatemeh.
Awesome.
I think this is really
Thank you.
really cool. Yeah, I love to see more of your work, and definitely, when we've got our SDK ready, then it would be cool to talk. If we can create some meta spaces with you guys.
Would love that. We would love that, definitely. Let's talk about it once it's ready. And thank you for having me here today. And it was really nice to meet every one of you. And hopefully I can join more on these Wednesday adventures. Would love to hear more about other speakers as well. So thank you. Thank you for doing this. It is a beautiful space you're creating.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so we've got like till August. We've got like a lineup till August. And we've got some really exciting like CEOs and founders and creators coming up. So it's like every week on 4 o'clock Central European time. And I was wanted to say something, but I lost it. But yeah, oh yeah, I'm just curious. Like, okay, so this is now the first time we're using Spatial for the meetups. Previous times we used Altspace. I don't know, I'm just curious, like what do people think? Like, do you like Spatial more? Do you like Altspace more? Just curious.
I think navigation here is better in some way, and the whole decoration of the place I think is much more interesting. That you can pull in a lot more of your own content in this place.
Some of us did have some audio issues, so I'm not sure if that's a spatial thing or it's just on our end. So a couple of my friends, we are on board, and one of them couldn't join the audio at all. So I'm not too sure if it's a platform issue or it's just on their end, right?
I don't know. I didn't have any audio issues today.
Okay, we'll look into that.
So, yeah. So I need to I myself need to prepare for another like online event in an hour. But if you want, you can just network. Maybe ask Fatemeh some more questions. We don't have like a cool bar in this space like we had in the in Altspace. But we've got a dog and a cat and yeah, some other cool weird objects here. So feel free to check them out. And yeah, so if you want, you can just network with each other. I'm heading off. Thanks so much, Fatemeh, for helping us out with this really nice presentation at the last minute. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, so I love to see you all at the next event.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. I'm also heading out, but if you have any questions or concerns or want to reach out, please do. I'm happy to talk to anyone here. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Bye,
Thanks.
everyone. Thanks for being here.